So, after the saddle above Meyer's cabin, we drop steeply, and this becomes a trend as we undulate. There are occasional blowdowns. It's a bit rough, primitive trail, but not too hard to follow. It, let's see, drops down to basically unsigned Nave Spring at the unsigned junction with the trail down to Nave Canyon, and that is, the spring is obvious as you cross the drainage. Look down to eastbounders left, and there is a trough there, an old trough. It's not really functional, circular, and some flow in the drainage. And if you go down that side trail 150 feet or so, there's a decent, albeit small, campsite on the left. Okay, and there is actually a trail sign on the ground back at the junction, but it only indicates distances along the Apache Kid Trail or towards San Mateo Peak. We continue to undulate rather steeply up and down, short bits of ridge, kind of a castellated, pinnacled area with good views off towards the north of other similar ridges, including San Mateo Peak. There was also a unsigned junction with some trail that seemed like it went down towards Corn Canyon. Flag both sides of that, just stay on the ridge. Then there is a the last drop before the climb to reach the junction with the Apache Kid Trail. That's campable right there. It's a pretty good, albeit dry, little canyon bottom there, well forested. And then you begin the last climb towards the signed junction with Apache Kid Trail. And by the way, let's see, conditions weren't too bad after Nave Spring. They were just very sporadic blowdowns, and definitely improved once you join Apache Kid Trail. Although for westbounders, initially the Trail 50 shipment has a few blowdowns that seem to obscure the way to go, although you figure it out as you persist for 100 yards or less. Apache Kid Trail is now a well-graded, reasonably well-used trail in a fairly open, dry, kind of a ponderosa, occasional Douglas fir forest. It climbs with views back towards the south, towards the Rio Grande Valley, and over towards Vix and San Mateo Mountain. You pass unreliable San Mateo Spring, which is a trough on eastbounders left near a old shanty, and actually just before, the order is Milo Trail and then shanty and then spring, and then you switch back up towards the junction with the Cowboy Trail. The southerly, the higher of the two parts of the loop. That's at the saddle. That's also campable. And then as you head down towards the north, the forest becomes rather kind of an old growth aspen mixed conifer deal, and still reasonably in good shape. Then you pass the next junction signed with Cowboy Trail up to San Mateo Peak, and then we continue downhill, not in the drainage, but on a kind of a broad ridge, very heavily forested, no views. Although then we switch back down into a drainage which we follow along. It's quite lush for a little while. It's dry though. And then there's a couple switchbacks uphill, cross over a little saddle, and then you contour down into actually just before I guess the climb up to the saddle, there was a junction with Smith Canyon Trail. And then we start after the saddle, eastbounders, northbounders, contour down towards the sign junction with 25 yard spring, which is 200 feet off to eastbounders left.